Talk of Champions Short Sessions.
Long story short.
Welcome in to another Talk of Champions Short Sessions. I'm your host, Zach Berry. My guests will be joining me momentarily. Before we get this one underway, I do want to remind you this show is powered by the good folks at College Corner. collegecornerstore.com. If you're not local or in Mississippi, for their 3 locations, you can check them out online, collegecornerstore.com. They have got anything and everything Ole Miss that you would need for going to basketball games, baseball games. They've got tailgating supplies. They've got gifts and gear if you want to get a birthday gift, Father's Day, a Mother's Day, or just a happy for somebody or yourself. Go check them out, collegecornerstore.com. If you are in Oxford, you can go check them out, 825 Sisk Avenue, Suite 105. Fantastic layout. Space is brand new. It's phenomenal. Scott and the folks over there do a fantastic job. If you're not in Oxford, check them out in Ridgeland or Flowood. 2 locations in the Jaxson area. They have got anything you need for Ole Miss. They got real tree gear. Some of the new stuff. They've got the hoop and the sip gear, which is super popular. That is selling like crazy right now. I know Scott and them are trying to keep as much of it in stock as they can. If you've seen the hoop and the sip gear that the coaches and the staff and the players wear, you can get it at College Corner Store or at collegecornerstore.com. Now, without further ado, let's bring him in. My guest, Mr. Gray Hardison, a.k.a. Belly of the Beast on Twitter, the guy to go to for Photoshops and hilarious video hijinks. Gray, good afternoon. Welcome in.
Good afternoon. Good to be here. Glad I could join you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I just want to jump in real fast and say this is an unpaid testimonial for College Corner. I've ordered online from them, and it was a seamless process.
It truly, I mean, it really is. Now, I am being paid to talk about it, but you're not. But very easy. Also, the shipping, incredibly fast. I ordered a couple polos before the Peach Bowl. It was probably 6 days from when we were heading to Atlanta, and got them with 2 days to spare. So speedy shipping and handling, you can't beat it. All right, so great. I brought you on. I know your affinity for quarterback play and dissecting offenses and the minutia and the analytics and all that, but we're going to get into some, but also this is just going to be a good old fashioned my opinion type podcast here. But the folks over at WAOM_ on Twitter put out a tweet a couple days ago, had 4 pictures. The tweet said, 2 minutes left, down by 6. Who do you want leading the game-winning drive? The 4 pictures, Jaxson Dart, Matt Corral, Chad Kelly, Bo Wallace. 4 incredibly gifted quarterbacks, tons of accomplishments. Jaxson Dart is obviously still at Ole Miss doing his thing, but the other 3 very successful quarterbacks in this era of Ole Miss football that has, rejuvenated. It is now a household name. It's a name brand. It's a national brand now with Lane Kiffin and what Ole Miss has been able to do the last couple of years. But just upon seeing the tweet, what was your initial gut feeling on, out of the 4, which one you would pick and why?
Well, it's sort of like I don't have kids, but it made me think of like you have to pick your favorite child here, which is it's very difficult. But like, and we were talking sort of before, but it's one of those things like all those guys. I mean, I can't think of the specific games off the top of my head, but we saw all those guys do basically that scenario. I mean, I think I was just thinking about this year right now, the LSU game when we.
Yep.
I mean, that was literally like I think that might have been actually 2 minutes. But yeah, I mean, I have complete faith in all those guys. Like, I mean, because I saw them do it. It's probably, if I had to pick one, forced to pick my favorite child, and the others have to skip a meal or whatever. I'm probably turning to Swag Kelly. I love Swag. He was not afraid of anything. I mean, he and Corral kind of had the same mindset, not afraid of anything. Well, sometimes to their detriment, decide to force one in there, but
never saw a window too small.
No, no. The window, if the window was the size of a football, he figured he could get it in there. But yeah, just his pure, yeah, like I said, his mindset, and then I mean, the raw, just the arm strength is just otherworldly.
Yeah.
And people forget, like, Swag was an incredible athlete. Like, I think his 2015, I think he had like 500 yards rushing.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy could do it all. But that would be, again, I love them all, but if forced to choose, I'm going with Swag.
Yeah. Disclaimer here before anyone is yelling at their radio or their phone or whatever. I mean, all four are incredibly accomplished quarterbacks, and there's no wrong answer here. Which is why I think this is a great question for a podcast, because I pulled up the stats. So yeah, 2015, Chad Kelly, obviously, I think the only two quarterbacks in SEC history that were statistically better were Cam Newton and Johnny Manziel, which pretty solid
Yeah, that's pretty
company
good.
there, I would say. Yeah, 4,042 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, completed 65% of his passes. You mentioned it, 509 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns as well. Then you look at, kind of maybe the paterfamilias of the quarterback family as of late, Bo Wallace. I mean, statistically, I believe he still has the most yards in Ole Miss history, over 9,500 passing yards in 3 years at Ole Miss, 62 touchdowns. I always hated the good Bo, bad Bo thing, because I feel like that's incredibly dumb to do to one player in particular, because everybody makes bad decisions. There's no perfect quarterback ever. I always thought that was lazy, but um, if you want to play the what if or the hypothetical game here, I mean, pre-injury Bo Wallace was as good as anybody in the country in 2014 and 2015. And then you look at Matt Corral. You mentioned the arm talent with Chad Kelly. Matt Corral, probably the only person that matches him in that
Yeah.
in that realm, which is pretty impressive. I mean, did basically, you've seen the clip, we've all seen the clip. At the opening, they do the long toss competition. You see guys now, I mean, full on, like, running, sprinting, crow hop, throwing it, falling over. Matt Corral just stood there and bounced a couple times and threw it 70, I think it was 78 yards. Just insane. But yeah, another guy that battled injuries but was still incredibly good. 8,287 yards passing in 4 years, 57 touchdowns. Another guy that was just really good with his legs. His last 2 seasons at Ole Miss, he had over 1,100 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns. This one was tough for me. I'm probably going to go Corral, but I like Jaxson Dart and Matt Corral here in this scenario, and this is why I think, and look, no disrespect to the folks that were on those teams, but could you imagine Jaxson Dart or Matt Corral with the wide receivers that Bo Wallace and Chad Kelly had?
Yeah, that would have that would have been a little bit of a help. I mean, I always go back to that game. Oh gosh, the 2020 Auburn game. We played at Auburn, and they had, Corral was injured at one point, but he comes back. But we had wide receiver injuries going into that game, and then I think we had one during the game, and I think it was uh oh gosh, forgot who got hurt. But anyway, Drummond, Dontario Drummond got hurt,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so for like 2.5 quarters, the best receivers Ole Miss had on the field were Pearson.
Ja'Cour Pearson, yeah.
Ja'Cour Pearson. I can't remember his first name. Pearson and Swag Kelly's little brother at tight
Yeah.
end. Those were the best
Casey
two
Kelly.
receivers on the field. And it was not an ideal scenario.
That is East Carolina Pirate Casey Kelly now.
That's correct. Yeah, I saw he's decided he went to the West Coast. Now he's going to check out that East Coast life.
Yeah. And look, this isn't, again, not besmirching anybody, because the wide receiver room at Ole Miss this year was pretty damn good. The only program in the country with 3 players with 700 or more yards receiving. I mean, Trey Harris basically announced himself to the world as a number 1 guy that, I mean, Jaxson Dart's go-to guy. I mean, the Peach Bowl, Ole Miss needed a first down or a big play. They went to Trey Harris. And then Jordan Watkins, what a story. coming from Louisville. He will be in his third year in 2024, but battled injuries, but as productive and consistent as anyone. And then talk about a great story, Dayton Wade. I mean, walk on to a guy that has a shot at making a roster in the NFL because of what he did in Lane Kiffin's offense the last couple of years. So, and then, with Corral, I mean, you had Dontario Drummond, Jacour Pearson, Braylon Sanders. So it's not that those guys were terrible, but it's just looking at what was at Ole Miss in 2014 with, or even 2012 with, Dante Moncrief. And then later on you had Vince Sanders, DeMarcus Lodge, Quincy Adebojo, Laquan Treadwell. I mean, there were some household names. And then with Chad Kelly in 2015, I mean, that team, 10 wins, went to the Sugar Bowl. But I mean, the cachet on that roster with Cody Core, DeMaurier Stringfellow, Markel Pack. I mean, Derek Jones popped up here and there. And we already talked about Treadwell. So, that's kind of my thing is with what Corral and Dart were able to do in the offense without now the run game helped them. And, both of those guys had really good run games, which helps open things up. But that was kind of my tipping point there was I would take Dart or Corral just because of that alone they were able to do that. I mean, we say that all the time, Gray, about Eli Manning. Like, imagine Eli Manning with some of these receivers, right?
Yeah. Eli Manning, if you just want to, if you're at home and you have 5 minutes and want to amuse yourself, go look at Ole Miss's football roster from let's see, I guess it'd be 2020 or 2001 to like 2003, and just look at the receivers that Eli had to play with.
Yeah. Probably another thing for me with either Dart or Corral, and not that Bo and Chad didn't have it, but there's something about the uncoachable traits that quarterbacks can have with just willing a team down the field, making plays when there's nothing there. And then I feel like, and again, this is not because the other guys didn't. I have to say that almost every time now because I don't want anybody to get upset. This is just our opinion. We're not saying everybody else wasn't good. But I felt like the camaraderie and kind of the buy-in from the team with both of those guys was very evident, with just the will to refuse to lose. Like we talked about it a lot this year where national pundits were like, well, Ole Miss isn't actually a good team. They just win a lot of toss-ups.
They're a bad 11-win team.
Like at some point, you're just a good team that just finds ways to win.
Yeah, I mean I know we've talked about it, but like Corral, like you were just kind of saying, is Corral's like his will to win and his ability to demand that of his teammates and his teammates willing to meet him there. It's kind of the same thing with Dart. I mean, you see it. It's like they always talk about it. It's like the accountability. It's like, this is the level I need you to play at, and you've got to meet it here, or we're going to find somebody else who can. And those guys, they just demand a lot of their teammates. And that's, that's not, like you were saying, that's not necessarily like coachable. Like you can yell at a guy as much as you want. It's like, oh, you gotta hold your teammates more accountable or demand more than blah, blah, blah. But like, unless you really believe it, like people can see through if that's just like an act. And these guys, it's just whatever. It's that thing that's born within them. They just have it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it firsthand in person. Ole Miss plays at Tennessee. Corral runs the ball. I think he ran 30, 31 times.
Yeah.
I mean, just carries the team to a win on the road in a hostile environment. But I think it all kind of started in that Egg Bowl loss a couple years before that, where Mississippi State just embarrassed Ole Miss. And look, you can say it's silly or it's dumb or whatever. You can call him a thug, but the brawl that breaks out in that game, that was when I knew, okay, Matt Corral's got some juice to him. Because, look, down, I don't even remember what it was, down by like 20, 30 points, and Matt Corral was like, I don't give a shit. I will fight everybody on this field.
Yeah, he literally tried to fight, I think, 2 defensive backs at the same time. Yeah. Like there's some, because I remember I did some post about it, and I remember having a screenshot of him. Like, he has the face mask of one guy, and he's grabbing the other guy, and he's just in there. I mean, people came to his aid eventually, but yeah, it's like you're losing that game, whatever, like you said, whatever, 4 touchdowns at least. And he's just like, all right, I'm ready to fight. This is garbage. Let's fight.
Yeah. I mean, say what you want. I mean, I guarantee you teammates rallied around that, or they were like, okay, like we believe you. Like we know you're about that life now. Yeah, and I mean that, and then I mean now it's just a legendary tale now. But the second fake P Egg Bowl, when Elijah Moore does it, Ole Miss ends up losing on the missed extra point. But that final drive where Matt Corral's basically like, we're not going to call any of the plays y'all call. I'm just going to call everything from the huddle. Just iconic.
Yeah, basically telling Rich Rod to although that could be a good nickname for him, Rich Rods. You basically telling Rich Rod to start packing his stuff and go to Louisiana Monroe. Like, I'm leading this drive. And what's wild about that is, if you go back and watch, like, that is that Ole Miss had the ball on like their own, it was either 16 or 26, I can't remember. And they had a 4th and 24.
Yeah.
4th and 24 with under a minute left. And Corral basically, just does the screw it. Braylon Sanders is down there somewhere, or who I think he caught it, and he was just like throws it up, and he got behind the whoever the safety was from Mississippi State, and they converted.
Yeah, just incredible. I mean, and look, we can go through the other two guys. You mentioned the LSU game this past year. Dart leads the team down, gets the go-ahead touchdown. The defense seals it. I mean, that was kind of a crowning moment for him. Obviously wasn't a Heisman moment because they won the Heisman, but I guess whatever the next level below that is, of just kind of like the arrival of Jaxson Dart as like, he is in the system. It's his team. It's his offense. And just, I mean, as calm and collected as can be, marched down the field against, now I know it's LSU and their defense wasn't great, but I mean, that's a game. If you follow Ole Miss football, Ole Miss loses that kind of game all the time. You never can get over the hump in those games against SEC opponents, and just got it done. So just
the crazy part, you were just kind of talking about, the crazy part about that last drive is, like I said, how calm and composed are, because it's 2 minutes left. And we were also very intentionally trying to go slowly to drain as much clock as possible, because we didn't want LSU to get the ball back. And that was just kind of wild to watch them. They were like kind of semi-huddling at the time, like we were running the ball. But like you said, it was once I think it was Judkins he got probably the second or third play, got a little burst run out. And then all of a sudden it started clicking and Dart started firing. And I'm like you. It's like, I don't know how many times, it feels like we've been in that scenario a million times, and we go 4 plays now and it's over.
Yeah.
But that was, I mean, I was at that game, and that was, it's one of those things, like, as you're watching, it's like, is this really happening?
Yeah. And then, obviously Bo Wallace's arrival was pretty quick. 2012, first year in the program, the Egg Bowl. I mean, good God, man. I mean, Dante Moncrief is still haunting Jonathan Banks and Darius Slay's dreams. I
think what was hilarious about that, I think I'm pretty sure he caught 3 touchdowns, and all 3 touchdowns were against a different state defensive back.
Yeah, because they were like, shit, what are we gonna do? Like, try something else, I guess. And nope, didn't work.
The College Corner is headed to Oxford. Stop by their new location in the Oxford Commons off Sisk Avenue. They'll have 4,000 square feet of Rebel gear ready for your trip to the Grove. On your next trip to Oxford, stop by the College Corner or our other great locations in Ridgeland and Flowood. Hats, shirts, polos, pullovers, sweats, t-shirts. College Corner has it all. And as always, you can visit us online at collegecornerstore.com. That's collegecornerstore.com. The College Corner, where your game day apparel meets.
Cooler temperatures are right around the corner, and as I like to say, it's the perfect time to play a round of golf. And if you're looking for a premier golf course in Northwest Mississippi or the Memphis, Tennessee area, go to Cherokee Valley Golf Club in Olive Branch, 15 minutes from the Memphis International Airport. With those cooler temps, you might want to stay warm and comfortable on the course this fall. go in the clubhouse and check out their new selection of outerwear from Travis Matthew and FootJoy, including FootJoy's new lightweight hoodie. This 18-hole par 72 course includes 4 sets of tees to accommodate all players and has 11 lakes, 52 bunkers, and the wide Zoysia fairways and extra-large Champion Bermuda greens and clean roughs make for an excellent opportunity every single time to post a number. If you need a premier golf experience in the Mid-South, go to Cherokee Valley Golf Club. Call them at 662-893-4444 or check them out, olivebranchgolf.com. Are you looking at cutting your health insurance premiums by as much as 20 to 30%? Are you aging into Medicare and need help finding a Medicare supplement plan? Call Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group at 601-953-8449. Drew is an Ole Miss grad located in Mississippi and licensed in 7 states. He works with the nation's second largest health insurance brokerage with access to 35 different carriers, and he can help you with any of your health insurance needs. From regular health plans to life insurance to dental and vision and even Medicare, he has it all covered. Now more than ever, it is critical to have a health insurance agent who is local and accessible. So call Drew Moak at 601-953-8449 and get your free quote today. Yeah, I mean, Bo Wallace had games like that where it was just dialed in, hitting everything. I mean, it's a shame the 2014 Auburn game ended up being a loss because that was a hell of a game to watch from an offensive standpoint on both sides.
Yeah.
The Nick Marshall and Trey Mason driving everyone insane with the zone read, and then Bo Wallace just big throw after big throw to go back and forth in that one. But yeah, I mean, all 4 quarterbacks do things well. I mean, there are a couple similarities. You mentioned the arm talent with Chad Kelly and Matt Corral, but there's a lot of grit to Bo Wallace's game too. Like, I think that's probably the main thing that they all have in common is they kind of all have the it factor at quarterback, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, all of them, multiple faced, as many an Ole Miss team does, faced adversity or points in the game where you're just like, all right, this feels like it's starting to unravel.
Yeah.
And all of them had those moments where they're like, no, we got this. And they would put together some drive and hold, like, you're just talking about Dr. Bo. I think about the 2014 Alabama game where it was like, they did not play very well on offense in the first half. And then, we had the missed face mask where the guy where Mathers fumbled. They didn't call it, whatever. So we're down, and they had every reason to be like, okay, this is just not our day. And they just ground it out against a team that's almost impossible to just grind out a win against.
Yeah, if the Egg Bowl in 2012 was his kind of baptism, then I guess you could say the 2014 Bama was like his christening.
Yeah. He had I was thinking about the last drive where they, I guess it was the long touchdown pass to Sanders to I think to tie it. And then the kickoff, they fumbled and Alabama fumbled and Ole Miss recovered. But if you go back and watch that, it's like it's the play right before Sanders. They run this little sort of high-low corner out with a tight end running back out in the flat and put the Alabama linebacker in conflict. And as soon as the ball is snapped, it's to Ingram, he's throwing the pass to Ingram. As soon as the ball is snapped, he knows he's got it. And it's just no hesitation, fire. Ingram's wide open, 12-yard gain or whatever it was. And then I think the next play is the one to Sanders where they ran, basically it's like a Mills concept where the slot receiver runs across and the outside receiver runs like a deep post. And the point is to suck up the safety. And so what's his face? Landon Collins takes 2 steps in the wrong direction. And and Dr. Bo, you can watch him. As soon as he sees Landon Collins take that 1 step forward, he's like, he knows he's got it with Sanders and lets it go. And it's just, that decisiveness in a just crucial moment it's just
you see heels hit the turf, a little bit of heavy feet on a DB. I mean, you got it.
Yeah.
Landon Collins catching strays on this podcast because he got cooked that game multiple times, but the game clinching touchdown.
Yeah, the game go ahead touchdown was they got him again.
Memphis's own Jalen Walton. Shout out the Roadrunners at Ridgeway. The old running back wheel route that was perfectly drawn up. Bo Wallace put it in the perfect spot. Outside shoulder, only he could get it. But yeah, I mean, Yeah, it's a tough question. I think it's all just kind of personal preference at this point because they were all four really good, and Jaxson Dart is still really good. But yeah, Chad's obviously got the 2015 Alabama game. Hell, I thought even in a loss, the 2016 Florida State game was incredible for him. I mean, just
Oh yeah, that first half they came
oh,
out and just
dude, crushed
I
them.
mean, yeah, and then they that was he melted down in the second half, but that wasn't just him, that was everybody else too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
he
mean,
that the and you mentioned that the 2015 Alabama game, and then obviously like the well-designed, perfectly executed Chad, just like I said earlier, he was not afraid to throw passes. Chad is about to be hit by like 5 Alabama defensive linemen at once, and he just throws it up because he knows that it's going to bounce directly to Quincy Adeboyejo, who's going to take it 70 yards or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you go through the game logs. I mean, in a loss to Auburn, Chad threw for 465. A win against Memphis, 361. Lost to Bama, 421. I mean, just 313 against Florida State in the opener. I mean, just a crazy, crazy game and career. I mean,
well, I found a tweet that was actually from the Red Cup, main Red Cup account, and this was when Kelly, when he was injured in 2016 and his career was over. Whoever was running looked up his total yards and touchdowns, and so Chad played in 21 games at Ole Miss. He averaged 366 total yards a game and 3 touchdowns a game, which is it's pretty solid.
I did the math while you were talking. That is good. Yeah, just a ridiculously good run of just good throw after good throw, and like we make the jokes about never saw a window too small, but I mean he had the arm talent, he had the juice to get there, and just incredible. At just
I
the
was just gonna I
production.
remember well, I was just gonna say I remember I guess it would have been the spring, I guess it'd be the spring of 15 when, he transferred in from Clemson, and there was the quarterback, Ole Miss quarterbacks were Swag, Devontae Kincaid, and Ryan Buchanan, and they were like, oh, it's going to be a 3-way competition or whatever. And you had heard from people who had been to spring practice, like, this is Chad Kelly's show. But we finally got to see the spring game, and you saw Kincaid and Buchanan come out, and they are who they are, and they're fine, fine, but nothing. And then Swag gets a few snaps, and you're just like, oh wow, like this looks so easy for this guy. Like he could basically wake up and do this a minute after he wakes up. Just how talented he was.
Yeah, it's like the old well hell, it's like from Friday Night Lights and Bowie Miles, this is God given. All I gotta do is show up.
Yeah. And it's entirely possible there were instances where Swag actually did wake up right before the game.
Yeah. And honestly, who could forget the 2016 game and Chad just absolutely obliterated Kirby Smart's first team at Georgia. A very pedestrian 282 and 2 touchdowns, but ran for a touchdown. I mean, just carved up. That was a game where it was really weird to watch because as an Ole Miss fan, you're kind of waiting. Okay, when is the bit over and like when's the real game start? Because that was just an ass beating.
Yeah, they I think we had a defensive touchdown in that game.
Yep,
and
Derek
obviously
Jones,
that was that was obviously that was Kirby's first year there before he got the monster going. But there's that he did all right. I think he's doing all right. I think he's gonna make it. There was that. Sure, everybody's seen the highlight from that game. It's like the 50 some odd yard touchdown pass where Swag kind of breaks the pocket, and he can't really step into it because there's a defender that's going to hit him, and he just lets it rip and hits what I think it was DeMarcus Lodge who caught it in the end zone. But it's one of those, there's a field level camera angle that follows the ball all the way, and the ball, like there's just not even a wobble to the ball. It's as tight of a spiral as you can have, and it goes whatever 60 yards in the air.
Yeah, it's just absurd. Yeah. So again, there is no wrong answer here. All four quarterbacks really good. And look, real quick before we close the show here, and again, thank you for your time. Thank you to College Corner for powering the short sessions here. But talking Jaxson Dart, as he is still on campus, he is still preparing for his final year at Ole Miss. And look, we talked a lot in the offseason about the hype around this Ole Miss team for next season, the transfer portal class that is just incredible, the job that the staff did to land marquee guy after marquee guy is incredible. But what's your quick take on this team and kind of the ceiling and your very conservative expectations? We don't want to get too crazy here, but honestly, I don't know if what some people are saying is considered crazy at this point with the roster coming back and what's being added, right?
No, I agree. I mean, the only thing that would concern me but I mean, this applies to every Ole Miss team ever is, if they can stay healthy. It's like, yeah, while I would say, their frontline starters on offense and defense can match up with just as well with just about anybody now.
Yeah.
But it's basically if one of those key guys were to get hurt, then there's going to be a drop off. Whereas, like a Georgia or even, well, I don't know. Who knows what Alabama's going to be. But a Georgia or Michigan, Ohio State, like, they lose somebody significant, like the talent level drop off between that guy and their backup is not going to be as big as it is for us. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't think, the schedule is, I did a post on it that Ole Miss, I think if they have to go 10-2 to get to the playoff. I think it's possible.
9-3 is possible with some other losses from other
teams. Yeah, because with the Big Ten expanding, SEC expanding, it's possible more teams lose games than they usually do. So who knows? But 10-2 is, especially if they're a top 10 preseason team, which I can't imagine they wouldn't be, but 10-2 probably gets them in. But in order to do that, Georgia's on the schedule. If they lose to Georgia, then that means they're going to have to win games in Fayetteville, Gainesville, and I'm blanking on them, but basically places where they don't win a lot. Columbia, South Carolina, which I think we're all still traumatized by 2009. That's going to be 15 years ago, and I still think about that game.
There were some people that were just glad that they don't have to talk about it again.
Yeah, that was that one's just going to stay there forever. So they're going to have to win at least 2 games in those places, which they can. They're going to be better than those teams, but they just got to overcome some places where they historically have just been awful. But I mean, I 10-2 to me is like, it's not crazy. Like it seems very realistic. And then that's the thing, when you get into the playoff, and you turn it into an NCAA tournament scenario. It's just one game. You just, you've got, like, you don't have to win 2 or 3. It's just one game. Anything can happen in a single game. And so you get in, you give yourself a shot. I don't know if they do get in, how far they could possibly go. A lot of it's probably going to depend on who they're matched up against, but no, it's crazy to say that. It's like, no, I don't. I think it's totally realistic to say, like, yeah, this team should be in the playoff, and the people shouldn't look at you like you're crazy when you say that.
It is. And again, I think it's certainly set up schedule-wise with, in my opinion, the 2 toughest games being at home. You split those, I think you're in a good spot. Look, it's at Gainesville. Florida's not good. They are still reeling, trying to figure it out. But yeah, I don't think it's insane or homerish or naive or whatever you want to call it to say Ole Miss could go 10-2 in 2024. It's very possible with damn near the entire offense coming back. The offensive line has been upgraded with some big time additions. The defensive line has just been massively overhauled. And oh, by the way, JJ McGee, Xavier Harris, Jared Ivey. They got dudes coming back already too. You add some legitimate firepower at linebacker. He got to play in the bowl game, but TJ Dudley is going to be a lot of fun to watch on defense. And then you add Pooh Paul from Arkansas, who was a hyper productive guy for the Razorbacks. And then, I mean, the job that Pete Golding did with the secondary is just crazy with the added depth, experience, talent. I mean, it's absurd what they've been able to do. So just a tremendous job.
Yeah, I was going to say that with Golding, I think one of especially the guy added the guys up front was because that was one of the biggest issues with Ole Miss's defense last year is they just had a real hard time generating pressure. And then while they were obviously improved, they were still concerned about some of their guys in the secondary. So we played a lot of sort of soft zone or zone, which if you go back and watch, Golding's defenses when they were at Alabama, now granted they had 5-stars running around everywhere, but they did not. They played, a lot of the man match stuff that Saban has always played, and Ole Miss wasn't able to do that a lot last year. Yeah. And so I think that might be pretty interesting. Is if we get away from a lot of more of the sort of the bend but don't break kind of thing we were forced into at times last year. Because an added defensive line, it's like if you don't have to blitz and you can get home with 4 guys or 3 guys, whatever it is, like that makes everyone's life easier.
Yeah. I mean, I think going from a potential, like you said, bend but don't break, like hoping for chaos, generating turnovers defense to, hey, we're just going to like whip your ass up front and force 3 and outs. I mean, that hasn't been the case for Ole Miss defense since 2014. So it's exciting. I mean, just for us as media entities to cover a team that is just so vastly different from what is normally expected from an Ole Miss defense and a team in general. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's got to be one of the most anticipated seasons. I mean, maybe other than like Eli Manning senior year when he came back.
Yeah.
Maybe
probably that, or I guess 2015 or 2016, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing about 2015 is maybe no one knew like what we had in swag at that. I mean, we knew he was probably going to be good, but I don't think anybody knew what we had. But
I guess I think it was it 2016 when it was like the most season tickets sold?
No, yeah, maybe that,
or something like that. I think that's the stat, or like that was like the highest amount of season tickets purchased and stuff like that.
And then we found out that we kind of stopped doing defensive recruiting for the last like 2 years, and that eventually caught up to him.
It's funny you mentioned Columbia, South Carolina, because I was actually in Columbia, South Carolina when Chad tore his ACL against Wofford. So yeah, a lot of bad memories at Williams-Brice.
Oh yeah, I remember I had the chance to go to that 2009 game and I decided not to. And that was the only thing that I was pleased with after the game. I was like, thank goodness I'm not currently in Columbia, South Carolina after watching that.
Yeah, that was a tough scene. All right. It's going to do it for this Talk of Champions short sessions powered by the good folks at College Corner. Appreciate all the sponsors for bringing this show to you. Appreciate you, the listener, for tuning in. And, of course, thanks to our buddy Gray Hardison for joining us here this Friday afternoon, getting ready for the weekend. Ole Miss hoops Saturday against Auburn. You want to talk about tickets being sold? That one's going to be a zoo inside the pavilion. I know there's a ton of students expected. Probably a sellout if I had to guess. Auburn still trying to get a quad 1 win, but a very good team. Chris Beard and company 18-3 right now. Last thing I saw, Joe Lunardi had Ole Miss as an 8 seed right now in his bracketology. Seems like that's where Ole Miss is kind of hovering, 8 or 9 right now. Give me 2 to 3 sentences on your take on Ole Miss basketball 21 games into the year.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of them, but I mean, they're night and day in terms of what we had to watch last year, and it's just they're like I think they sort of reflect Beard's I guess personality. They play really hard, and they also, I think the biggest thing that was the offensive upgrade from last year to this year is big. Like they can actually shoot threes this year, which is like that's That's a revelation. It's like you kind of need to be able to do
Yeah.
that in modern basketball, and we couldn't for the 2 previous years. So I don't, I saw something the other day that in Ken Palm rankings that they are the number 1 team in luck, which is that just
Hell
doesn't seem
yeah.
that doesn't seem possible since this is Ole Miss we're talking about. So there could be, like
It's a
eventually,
typo.
right? I don't know. Yeah, maybe Ken Palm is not punching in the right numbers, but so it feels like there could be some sort of regression there that eventually, they sort of fall back. But I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like, there's no, I mean, that's the thing that is they just play hard. They find their way. I mean, they've gotten blown out in a couple games, but they play really hard, and they're obviously well coached, and and they've injection of talent. So that's the thing. It's like it's amazing how those things work out, and you actually win games when you have good coaching, more talent, stuff like that.
Yeah. Imagine that. All right. That one's Saturday. If you're at the pavilion, have fun, be safe, behave yourself. Don't get too crazy. But hey, if Ole Miss wins, absolutely storm the court, I guess. That would be fun to do. Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard going head to head. Should be a good one. Appreciate Gray jumping on, talking Ole Miss football, quarterback play, and all that. Stay locked in at omspirit.com over the weekend. Big junior day weekend for the football staff as the dead period begins next week. You can read all about who is coming, including a commit that is verbally pledged to a new SEC institution. You can read about that particular prospect that is now going to be in town. But yeah, tons of recruiting, tons of transfer portal, basketball, women's hoops. We got some baseball stuff trickling in as baseball season is around the corner. So omspirit.com. If you're not a member, it's just $1 to join. So get into the resistance now as we are getting ready for the home stretch of college hoops season. And then, like I said, baseball will be here before we know it. So Gray, appreciate you as always, buddy. Be good. And that is going to do it. Until next time, we out.